All right, welcome back. Let's do video viewers. I just got back from Infocom. I just posted a large Infocom video wrap up covering 25 companies, and most of them were covering the technology that makes my amazing, luxurious penthouse boardroom work. The microphones, the cameras, the monitors, the displays, all the things you see here. But there's things needed to make it work behind the scene. And one of the companies I covered deals with that, Ames. And to be honest, I don't think I did that good of a job in my wrap up because this is kind of technical. So my friend Andrew is here to help me figure this out and help me really explain, because it is important what Ames does. So Andrew, can you please introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Andrew Starks. I am on the board of directors for Ames. I also, my day job is I work at Matnica, and we make technology that is built on the standards that that Ames promotes. So what Ames does is we promote open standards in broadcast and in the AV space. Now, lately, what we've been up to is we've been really interested in getting IPMX promoted and developed and understood and adopted by the pro AV industry. And IPMX is an open standard based on SMPTE 2110 and AES 67. And what it does is it enables video over an IP network with very, very low latency, kind of the same experience that you would get from like plugging in an HDMI cable or plugging in a DisplayPort cable instead of plugging in these specialized cables that have very limited distance and they have different connectors and all this kind of stuff. We're going to leverage the IP network, right? And we're going to make that same experience and much, much more available over an IP network using IPMX as an open standard. That's our goal.
Okay, I think I get. Well, first of all, it's important because when I was at Infocom, video over IP is a big thing, and understandably so, because it's so easy to manage everything over in the IP network. And the old audio and video networks, the connections, the cables we used, it was really a nightmare. So I understand why it's important. And to put it in terms an old video guy like me could understand, back in the old days, the old days, we had video machines from a company called Tandberg and one from a company called Polycom and Lifesize. The Tandbergs talk good to the Tandbergs, the Polycoms talk good, and they had protocols, and they didn't. It was a little too technical for me, but SIP and different flavors of SIP, and H.263 and H.264, and like Polycom was really good at H.264, and another one was really good at H.263, and they could talk to each other, but this wouldn't work and that wouldn't work. And at one point, everyone said, "Okay, for video conferencing, we're all doing H.264," and then suddenly everything worked. Suddenly we had a drop. Suddenly everything could talk to each other. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, well, thanks to the open standards you're using, right? And some of your experiences there are also really, really relevant too to what we're up to in Ames, because, you know, while you were able to make the technologies work, and you were, I'm sure, very grateful for having those open standards, you know, that even made it possible at all for that interoperability to work at all, still there were issues, right? And so what we're really up to with IPMX is we're trying to create an interoperability ecosystem so that, you know, when you buy this box, you know, from vendor A and vendor B has got a box that's labeled, you know, and you can read and reason about exactly how these boxes are going to be able to share content. And that's our, you know, that's a that's a lot of things. It's not only just the standards, of course, which, you know, those are the bedrock, the foundation of it all. And we're very thankful for the work that you know, our groups have been doing with SMPTE 2110 in the past, and AES 67 and other standards. NMOS is a big part of it. But on top of that, we also need to define exactly what has to be included in each of the devices, and what are the defaults, and what are the behaviors that are expected, and what should they be labeled, and all of those kinds of questions have to be sort of designed into the system. Otherwise, you know, you're going to have to experience a lot of the same frustrations that you were having when you're relying on just the raw standards and all of the different things that the manufacturers can do to make, you know, what this box works better because it supports all of, you know, this feature, but this other one doesn't, you know, quite do it that way, and all those little details that you can get into.
Now, it's not always an easy ask to get the vendors to use the standards. You know, I think probably for a new company coming into the industry, Yeah, I'm just going to use this. You guys wrote the code for me. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to use your code that you've given me and make my product around it. But for some of the more established companies, they might be saying, we have amazing developers. We're making our own code. We have features that aren't in the standard. This is how we differentiate. No, we're not using this, and we're not giving you our features. We're going to do it our own way, and we're not joining the party. I don't think that's good. But how do we convince them? How do
Well,
we?
it's so there's that group, right? And I think that's a great, thing to highlight. And I also think too that there is the group that you've also got other proprietary technologies, right? That they have their own kind of competing systems, but they're made by one manufacturer and they own that technology and they can kind of go in their direction. So, there's a lot of different forces out there kind of working against the idea of open standards, but the thing the thing that overwhelms it always is the customer. And so if you think back to COVID, right? So we had big supply chain disruptions that, most famously, everybody remembers the automotive industry where, cars weren't shipping, or when they were shipping, they had different features disabled and all that just because they couldn't get chips, right?
Mhm.
Well, some of those chips that weren't available were all, were the chips that are part of the AV industry. And so in fact, we're still living through a lot of those shortages. And I think a lot of integrators and customers really felt the sting of that acutely, because it was especially hard to get the proprietary chips that were part of those proprietary ecosystems, because only one supplier had them. There was only one implementation available. Whereas all of the things that were relied on open standards, such as like your regular network switch, well, if vendor A was not available to ship, then maybe you could switch to vendor B if you needed to, right? And you could keep the project alive. And I think I can't do better than that example that we all lived through, than that one, because I think that's just one of the benefits. The other benefit I'll say is that when you go through the process of standards, it's not just an apples to apples comparison to another technology. Maybe, we've got great engineers. Yes, you do have great engineers, but when you have great engineers across the world that speak different languages and have different cultures and come from different product categories, coming together to say, hey, we need to think about it this way, it makes a better product. It takes a really, really long time to do it, but it makes a better product. And in the end, it's something that many more eyes have looked at, and it's much more general and much more applicable across many, many use cases. And just a couple examples of that, IPMX, we really were thinking about how do we make this as easy as an HDMI cable, but on a network. Well, it turns out as we were kind of working through those problems and building on the SMPTE 2110 broadcast capabilities, the medical industry was looking at what we were doing, and they've developed DICOM, which is based on SMPTE 2110 as well. So you can see how the generalized way that the standards are made and how flexible they are, it makes it much more exciting for many different industries to use the technology. So.
Oh, that was a great, and there's two really great points that I have to address, and I can't keep two thoughts in my head at once. So I'm going to try to do this. I want to talk about the supply chain thing and about the community value of the standard. The supply chain thing. That is a really great point, and I know that I have people watching me that work at some companies that had supply chain issues, and they're still feeling the customers are still mad. They bent over backwards doing everything they could to make it right with the customers because it wasn't their fault, and the customers are still mad. And it's been a few years, so yes. And I gotta admit, as you were talking, Mike, how the heck is he going to tie supply chain into standards? Where is he going? Does he lost his mind? Where's he going with? But it makes sense.
I did a good job though.
it came together because if I'm not using the standard, I can't use the standard chips always. If I'm using a special thing, I might need a special chip. That's the supply chain issue. So yes, big reason.
And it's real. It's a real thing, especially not just for global pandemics, but there's other reasons why supply chains get disrupted for sure.
Yeah, the pandemic was the big one, but I was at some customer events for some big companies, and they were like, we've been mad since before the pandemic about supply chain issues. This is a real thing. But the second thing you said, why should I, as my company, why should I use this standard instead of my amazing developers? Well, it'd be one thing if it was just Andrew's company doing the standard and trying to get the rest of the world to go along. But we have a critical mass and then some. We have our, I think I'm on the right, yeah, we are full alliance members and
Yeah,
associate
more than
alliance
100
members.
different companies. Yeah. And that's not the full list even, because we have 3 different organizations that work with AIMS. We have VSF and we have AMWA, and both of those organizations, that's where the actual work gets done, is in VSF. They actually were the inventors of SMPTE 2110 before it went to SMPTE. And then AMWA is the organization that does the control plane, the NMOS stuff. That's how you can see where, which devices on your network. If you ever are able to go on your telephone one day and scroll through and see the video devices on your network, it might be NMOS that enables that. So it's and how to connect to different things and control different things. So that's what NMOS does. So anyway, those 3 organizations together each have about, like, roughly between 70 and 100 or so members, and a lot of the companies join all 3, but together it's more than 100 organizations that build that help to build the standards.
So we have critical mass and then some. If
Yeah.
there was 2 or 3 companies involved, you know what, I'm going to pass on the standard. But I'm sorry, I'm just not going to outdevelop your community of 100 companies
Right.
contributing to this standard. It's going to be, it's reached the critical. I keep saying critical mass, but it is. It's reached the point where you say we're not working on a standard. We now have a standard. We need the rest of the community to go along.
So I would say 2 things in that regard. One is that we've been, the industry has been here before, and there are some standards that have been successful, but not successful in the way that people were anticipating. So Avnu had, Milan, which is very successful. I mean, there's no doubt about it, but they were kind of hoping that it would be the 8V over IP standard, or that we could evolve into that. And there's been other attempts as well. So it's good to be cautious. You don't want to hitch your wagon to something before, if it's not going to work out, because it's expensive, to participate in the standards and to develop into them and to be the first and all that. But I think with the thing with IPMX that I think gives it a lot more of sort of a momentum and a push is that it is built on a successful standard already. So if you watch TV today, your video will have gone through SMPTE 2110, probably more than once on its path to you, especially if you're watching live video. And even, if it's a live production, SMPTE 2110 is in that live production in the year 2024, almost for sure. So it's like if you think about broadcast production, it's the sort of the highest, tolerant, or, the lowest tolerances or highest tolerance. Basically the highest standards, the highest specifications are really found in broadcast, because everything has to be synchronous. Every, color has to match. Failure is just never, ever an option. So they build in lots of redundancy. And so now we have these great standards that we're building on, and we're able to add the Pro AV use cases to them and make it flexible, easy to use. We have a common codec. We define how things should work together in a way that makes it so that you don't have to have a beanie and a propeller head in order to figure it out. So we've done those things, and so I think we're built on a good standard. And I think that as people have seen us, you make these decisions, we haven't done anything to that's going to torpedo it. I don't think, at least at this point. And I think it's because of that we've really actually added a lot of members, and that's really the second thing. So it's not only we've got that critical mass, and a lot of those people in that chart are really from the broadcast world that started with SMPTE 2110 and AES 67. But recently, we've had I don't want to name a bunch of them, and I know I'm going to miss a bunch, but recently we've had maybe a dozen or so different members join here in the last 6 months, which is an exciting trend, really exciting. And can I say one more thing? I'm sorry, I know I talk a lot. But I also want to say that that we also have added a lot of integrators, and that's been really fun to see. So not just the manufacturers that want to, influence the standard, but also the, integrators, people that are using this technology every day. I'm just thrilled that AV integrators especially have come in and joined as members, because Their voices are so important. They're the ones that are going to actually implement this in the field. And they're the ones that are struggling right now with things like training and getting people with the right skills to move to this new technology. So we're really excited to have those guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would think the next step would be, awareness among the larger community, the end users and
Mhm.
integrators. So they'll say to the vendors, hey, we're thinking of using solutions. By the way, you're on IPMX, right?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
why not?
exactly. Yeah, that's how it happens. We had a very big customer. I can't say their name publicly, but they're a, huge multinational bank, and they learned of IPMX and got very excited about what we were doing. An interesting part of why they were so excited is that they have their primary concern is Pro AV, but they have a lot of live production, basically broadcast that they're doing in their facility as well. So when they heard about an open standard and the direction we were headed with it, and that it was built on SMPTE 2110 and that we would have such good cross compatibility with them, they got so excited they started going to their vendors saying, what is your IPMX story? The next project we do will have IPMX in it. And they even started a lab, and
Wow.
they're testing out early IPMX implementation. So I mean, what you're saying is actually exactly how it's unfolded.
Excellent. All right. Well,
Yeah.
anything else to share with our viewers about AIMS or IPMX?
Well, no, I guess maybe one thing I would be remiss if I didn't make a pitch to join us. This is a volunteer effort. You did mention it was an organization or a company earlier. It's an organization of volunteers, and so what we're doing really depends upon participation from the industry. And what's been fun and challenging is that in our situation, in Pro AV, they understand in the past, there's been these proprietary ecosystems that have been made by companies, and there've been associations that people can join, and they've been kind of commercial in nature. They're not used to the open standards, path, right? So there isn't a lot of muscle memory there. There isn't a lot of, like automatic, hey, I should join this because why, right? Because if you join one of these other organizations, then it's because you want access to a chip, or you want to influence that proprietary system in some way. In this case, you're joining because of that community element, because it's because you want to help develop the open standards, but I'll also give you a fantastic reason business wise why you want to do it is because if you're an AV systems integrator or you're a manufacturer, oh my gosh, you are going to be in meetings. You're going to be hearing the latest about how the standards are moving forward. You're going to be hearing use cases and new ideas from CEOs and CTOs and product managers and technical people, developers that are, FPGA engineers, software engineers, and all the really smartest people that are focused on customer problems. You're just in the mix with it, and you're just going to be part of some of the best conversations that you'll have, and it's where a ton of our ideas come from for our company at Matnica. So that was a long pitch. I'm sorry to take a lot of your time here, but I really, anybody out there that's interested in joining in this in the development of IPMX, we'd love to have you as members at AIMS and one BSF.
Nice. And at the end of the day, I love this because I think, obviously it's a lot easier for the integrators and everyone in between, but it's going to be great for the customers. There are some times when pure competition is the best thing for the customer. I want every vendor in their little silo trying to beat each other and give me the best, electric guitar they can make. But there's sometimes when there's just a right way to do it. There's a standard, and we need to come together as a community and say, okay, let's just all do things the one right way. And I think that's
Yeah,
the situation.
exactly. It's like the watering hole, right? We can all come to the watering hole and benefit from the water, and we don't have to kill each other while we're at the watering hole, right? And
Exactly.
and also too, let's stop innovating the plumbing, let's share that innovation together, and so that we can innovate on the application layer and adding value. And I think that's where we don't want, rent-seeking behavior. What we want is innovation and for an industry that'll grow. And that's the other huge benefit is that by doing this together, we end up making the industry a lot bigger. We end up making our products a lot less expensive, a lot more creative, and that's just better for everybody.
Yep. Like I said, easier. As a new company, it's a lot easier to join the industry and innovate if the infrastructure is there for you.
Yeah, well said.
Great
Yeah,
conversation.
see, I don't have anything to add to that.
That was awesome. So great to have you here, and
Yeah,
we'll have to have you back soon. And we'll put some links down below if anyone wants some more information. And thanks everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe.
yeah, thank you.